Hi and welcome to this week's video. We're going to try and get a little bit of work sorted out this week. I want to get the wingtip bows, these bits, get those all cleaned up, ready to go. A little bit of work required on these, just rounding off the edges and things, and get them installed onto the wingtips, and hopefully scarf up the leading edge ply and get the outboard sections at least on. If we can get the inner sections, that would be absolutely great. So that's the initial plans. There's some other bits and pieces I'd like to get done. We'll see if we get them done, so join me in the video. Let's get cracking. Okay, first step, I've been planing with my little standard box plane, the leading edge false spar top and bottom, and then just sanded it to make sure that the last little bit, so that meets the contours of the tip D sections like that, so it's a nice smooth fluid joint going around, ready for the ply. And I've done that to both wings now, so they are ready to go. We're cooking on gas in that department, so it's time to start playing with the wingtip bows. Join me for some routing, so I need to route these edges down to make them rounded, and then we'll start cutting slots in the tip section here and see if we can get everything to fit. Okay, let's try this out. This bow's I'm just going to rest it on the top of the trailing edge. I've got an idea of where I want it to go. There's a mark on here which was transferred from the plan, so we can just clamp this onto there, rest that on top, see how things are going. Hold that in position. I'm just going to use a bungee. We can clamp down here. There, that's pulled into there. Got a line drawn down the length inside there. I can draw in where that's going, which is there. So let's get the saw. Now, position, what's that like? If we could just do with a little bit more off on that corner there. Yeah, that looks about perfect like that. If we can clamp that into position, try. it's pointing, it's not quite perfectly in line there, it's sticking out. A straight line would be something more akin to that, so there will be a section that needs to be taken out there, and it's starting to bow here, but that helps us to bring in the tip ply, hopefully. I'm going to make up a little block to go into this corner here, and a little block to go into the corner there. So we'll get this bonded on, those blocks will be in, it'll just help to give a bit more for a glue joint to have a thing. And then later I'll make up gussets to go over the top and bottom, which isn't on the plan, but I think it'll just make it that much stronger. And bear in mind that the tips are stuck out here, they're quite prone to being knocked and bumped, so if we can make a little bit stronger, it might help them out a little bit that way. So here we have the wingtip bow bonded in place. I've got block on this side. It shows on the plan a block being put on this side, but I don't see any real reason for it. It's got a big glue joint going to be here onto the leading edge skin. I don't think it's going to get anything extra by being on that side of that piece of plywood. So block there, small block here. There's going to, as I've said already, there's going to be a gusset over that lot. Small block there, quite a large block here going along this section. This is quite a prone area, it's going to be very narrow, so it's more prone to damage than anything else. So I put quite a chunky block in there, and as you can sort of see, there's a line, a couple of lines there. There's going to be a gusset going right the way across this, because this trailing edge with the grain just running in one direction, it would be quite prone to damage if it gets knocked. So I want to reinforce that area a little bit. I'm going to do the same down here. There'll be an inset gusset here, inset gusset going across on this corner here, although it doesn't need it structurally at all really on this particular one because of all the walkway, but this corner here could be prone to damage. Here there's structural as well as protecting, and we go along the wing the same way towards the end. I was recently asked by somebody about geodetic, the fact we keep on talking about with the Fisher aircraft on my videos, the Youngster in particular, geodetic, and the person thought I was referring to strips of wood as being the geodetic, that was another name for these strips. And I had to point out the slight error there, that geodetic is a method of construction using geometrical shapes interlocked together to take a load path and spread it throughout the airframe. In effect, a bit like having a stressed skin, but without the shortfall of, should you have a small hole punched in it, that becoming a stressed razor, which you have with a monocoque. You can actually lose some sections, and the fact that the pieces of wood in this case, unlike a Wellington which use metal, are bonded together means that they allows shorter sections to be able to take a compressional load. If you had a long length of this under compression, it would just whip, but because it's joined to another section, to stop it from being able to whip, it can take a compressional load, much higher compressional load than it would if it was unsupported, as well as still remaining extremely strong in tension, and that makes a whole system very, very rigid. So hopefully that explains what geodetic is. It's a form of construction, not a material. About to scarf the leading edge skins for the wing. So what I've done is I've got this piece of aluminium up against the edge of the bench. That's going to be a hard surface. Don't want any flex or anything like that. You want something to really give you a notification that you've sanded down. I've set that back about a 32nd of an inch. Each one of these is marked up, so we've got a pair. I number them depending on what we're going on. So we've got a pair and another pair. So I've got A. This can be the outboard face of this one. inboard face, this one outboard face, inboard face, and this is 32nd plywood, so I'm scarfing back 3/8 of an inch, so it's a 1 in 12 scarf effectively. And I'll just move these so that the line is showing just onto each other in that sort of format. I like to do 4 or so at a time. I sometimes will do more if I know that I'm going to use them straight away, but I could do the other leading edge for the upper wing at this moment in time. But the biggest issue with this being 32nd is this is going to be a very, very thin knife edge of a scarf here. Just get my rule, check what the measurement is across there, check it same further down the bench. That way I know that I've got things running square. This, there we go, all the way down. This clamp is going to clamp all the bits of ply together. Now I'll use a second one just a little bit further along. This one's just going to stop them from interreacting, one might say, stop them from being able to slip and slide. Nice and secure. Now with 100 grit on a flat board, it's just a case of sanding away. And you can tell how well you're doing because you can see how parallel the different plies are coming up, so you can tell if you're bowing it or cupping it as you go along. So you're looking to try and get the lines as parallel and as even as possible. This won't take very long at all. They won't all be exactly the same. It depends really on the thicknesses of each of the laminations which have been put on and the grade and quality of the ply that's being used. In some cases you find that you'll end up with sort of different bands as it goes. But the important thing is to try and do it as smoothly as you can. Do the best you can not to roll the block. And there we have it. Those are scarfed as they should be. Next bit is to make sure we have a matched line, so we've got data to make sure we get them set up at the right distance apart from each other so that scarf sits flat. Okay, so I'm making sure I've got my sheet parallel to the edge. I'm just going to draw an arbitrary line, so it doesn't really make much difference where that is. I'll get this other sheet. This is what's going to be going over the top. So I put pressure on my straight edge and I push this in as far as I can. Well, not as far as I can, but until I meet resistance. So I've now got effectively I suppose a gap of about 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, just over a 1/16 of an inch. Anyway, from there I now draw or mark 3 inches. Now, having that 3-inch mark there means that I know that when I've got this bit bonded onto the aircraft, I can go put the glue on the edges. I can set that up. I can make sure they're 3 inches apart, and that will mean that we've got the joint nice and flat without any riding over the top. So for the leading edge, to help form the leading edge, if you try and just put it in dry, even though it's 30-second, because it's quite a tight radius going around the leading edge and around the aileron leading edges, it ideally needs to be formed. So at the moment I've got it soaking in what started off as hot water to help soften it. I made up this form. It's literally just made out of pine, and it's bradded together and glued and then hot glue sealed. These inner edges here have been smoothed so they're not particularly sharp or round, on there, so to damage the plywood when we put this piece of heavy duty aluminium tube down. You can sort of see it's quite heavy. And there we have it. That can now go and dry. That's got really good shape to it. Don't know how well that's showing up, but now we've got a nice even sort of curve going around, so it should be great once that dries. Just some slight anomalies with the plans. Here it says that the leading edge is made out of W37. There is no W37 on the parts list. Where W37 would be, it's got 4W12, which matches the requirements. So obviously there's a slight change in numbering or something there, so just be aware. Don't hunt around to try and find W37. It'll be 4W12. And the next bit of anomaly is here on the bit for the wingtips, where it says W16. The W16 here says gusset material 16 of an inch by 1.5. We've got that. They've given us that. 10 feet of it as a strip, but 1.5 inches wide is not good enough for this job, because that's more than 1.5 inches, and here it says 1/32 ply. I've made up these little gussets for the tips. I've got a chamfered edge because they're going halfway across the tip bow like that, and they'll be distorted, they'll be quite squashed to conform with the tip bow like that, and there to make the joint strong here. We could put blocking in, but the blocking would be heavier and wouldn't be a very good joint. The gusset's better. As you see, I've got the grain running this way on this surface, so in the centre it'll be going across, so it's a sort of cross hatch to give it the best strength. I'm doing that both main spars, top and bottom. And for those of you who are into weight saving, and like you should be for building, yes, the whole lot, all 8, so the 4 for this wingtip and the 4 for the other wingtip, adds up to a whole 9 and a bit grams, but I've offset some of that here at the root rib, where I need to put a packing piece here to allow for the leading edge ply to be supported all the way in and keep it all nice and flush where it's going to fit against the fuselage. I've put the light ply ribs in here, and I bored a hole, and actually boring the holes in both the two packers has actually saved me 4 grams. The leading edge bonded into position, being held in position by the bungees, and the strips of wood just to help spread the load out to try and make it flat, and it appears to be working well. We'll see what the end result is like once I get this lot apart. Okay, I'm going to just route down the surface here to taper the bow for starters, but also to inset here by 1/16 of an inch to put a gusset across here. So with my jig here, this line here is where it's going to cut up to. I'll then move the jig so I can cut to that line to get that vertical where I want it to be, and hopefully we will chop away the wood as we need to. So that's the sort of shaping I want there. Just use just a fine stainless steel brush just to make sure I've got all the bits of sanding debris out. Should actually just be very slightly low, which is, I can just perceivably feel it's very slightly lower. And that's got the grain running that way, both the outers are that way and one that way, because I want the strength here to support the trailing edge grain from being battered, and but it's also going to help link the joints together. Well, there's the gusset bonded into position. My prep before bonding on the inner section of leading edge is I put a bit of masking tape on here. I don't want glue to go too far over, which is just outside the standard area. I've done the same on here. That's just helping to support the fact this is quite thin, and I've put in a spare nose piece in here to support this section of the leading edge, because when I put the thing on, I'll have the banding going over here to help keep this joint really tight. So the masking tape on this bit, the masking tape on that piece. So once all is in position, I'll put a piece of masking tape over the whole section here, so that I can put one of my bungees on without it getting glued in place, and it's all supported by that, so it won't collapse the leading edge. So there's the joint. I've just lightly sanded over it with some 320 grit. You can just feel the joint, only just feel it. Well, that's it for this week. Hopefully next week false trailing edges on the top will be put in, the tip leading edge skins hopefully will be put on, then we can take the wings off, clean up the underside, and get to the point where we can cut the ailerons free. We can hope. So join me next week hopefully, and look after yourselves. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.